What's happening, wrestling card collectors? Welcome to our monthly recap. I mean, it just seems like
Another
the only thing
month.
we're doing these days, but another month, more
Well,
more news, hopefully, about the wrestling world. There's always news about wrestling world. You and I were just talking a minute ago about the archiving never ends.
it doesn't. Every month there's something new to talk about. Some
So,
months more than others, but we had another great month of sales, some real big numbers. So, that's what we do here. We talk about wrestling cards and sales and big numbers. So that's going to be the bulk of our chat today. But how you doing, Matt?
I think another great month is an understatement, but yeah. Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Just living the life over here, building a client base here for the store.
You
Really
got you
enjoying.
got two guests behind you there today.
I do. This is my protection, so I have a lot of these guys hanging out in the store these days. So, I figure have them come and make a cameo on the show. But
Well,
yeah,
Rey Mysterio wishes he could be that tall, huh?
he, these things are billed as life size stand-ups from the company I buy them from, and
So
then I
Chris is
realized,
actually shorter than Ray.
yeah, but then I realized this is their build height. So
Okay.
it's not their actual height, so like that. But
It's
because
like they're building.
for him, having met the guy several times, no, not that
No,
tall.
I can imagine. I've
Not
seen him
that
a few
tall.
times as well,
Yeah, so
and
more on the
so
Mandy Rose side of like the 5'4" size probably.
right, exactly. So I had a
Uh,
great month because I was away for a couple of weeks. Went
yes,
to
let's talk about that, man. You were on a this incredible journey, man.
yeah, well, we didn't travel a lot during COVID. We haven't been far in a while, and Susan turned 50 right in the thick of COVID, where we couldn't even leave the house. So we always said that we're going to go somewhere nice. And we ended up going to Scandinavia, to Norway. We went to Oslo and then went from Oslo across the Flam, which is fucking beautiful. And then took a boat into Bergen and we were there for a couple of days and over to Iceland. And we've been to Iceland a couple of times and we went on a tour of the west side, which was really windy. It was unseasonably cold. But Norway was just incredible. I sent you guys some pictures. It's just so scenic, so nice. And the people are just awesome there.
I
You know,
feel
like
like that Chuckster and I toured with you.
Yeah, good about the cards and they're like, hey guys, like the Garden Gnomes, we're on tour. But the one thing is like Toronto back in the day was great. It used to be very clean, but as we've gotten bigger and there's been more development and just more immigration, what have you, things change as you become a bigger city. And when going back to Oslo, I got that sense of when I was a kid or sort of in the 80s and 90s in Toronto, what it was like. People in North America, we got a lot of hangups, dude. People walk around looking at the floor, looking at their fucking phones, not a lot of smiling. The young kids today don't know service. They don't know please, thank you. It's an entirely different generation. And I thought, well, it's just me getting old and grumbly and curmudgeonly because that's what happens. You always think that our generation was the best, in all things, not just wrestling cards, life. But I went to Oslo and saw the people there, and they were so nice, so happy. There's bars everywhere that you can just come and chill, and they got blankets to sit down if you're cold, and just great. It was the people that really did it for me there. So, I think the further north you go in the world, the smarter people get, and that's the case with Norway. So your monthly WTC wrap up travel channel says go to Scandinavia. If you've never done that before.
Yeah, I'd
Great,
love to
great.
go someday. It's never been really something on my list of places that I thought about going to, but after talking with you, you still kept in contact a little bit here and there, and you were
Yeah,
talking about some of the things. I'm like, you know what? This is kind of quickly becoming on my list of places I need to go to.
well, here's one of my great disappointments in life. I'm East Indian, so I like the sun, and I take to it. I can get sun real fast. Um, but my wife Susan, no, she doesn't care for the sun at all. She'd rather go somewhere cold, cruise to Alaska. So for her,
You and
Iceland, these
I,
places,
same position.
and she's a photographer, so she loves mountains and natural beauty and all that stuff, and she loves go 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 go. Like, dude, we're going nonstop. So you come back and you're just spent from being away for 14 days. I mean, like I had to sleep for a day just to get
You
back
need
onto North America,
you need a
just to get back.
vacation from your vacation.
Yeah. And we did a lot, we saw a lot and there's hundreds and hundreds of pictures, but Yeah, so that's the kind of holiday that she prefers, somewhere where it's cooler and we can keep ourselves moving and see shit, and we did it, that's for sure.
Sounds like a lot of fun, man. Can't wait to hopefully go one day.
So because of that, I kind of missed stuff. We're looking at what was, insofar as there's nothing new big this month. We're expecting what I guess Revolution is next on the skid for Panini. That should be coming out next week. We're
No,
not even,
I believe it got delayed.
did it?
Yeah,
Okay, so but coming June.
I can't. Armand would be a good person to talk to about that, I guess.
You're falling behind on your scheduling then if we don't get Revolution this month, just following through on the calendar for last year. And there was rumblings of, I don't know if it's formally announced, but I heard talk of Eminence, and this is going to be the big transcendent level, the top cream of the crop product. So I don't know if
yeah,
that's
I
going on.
think Revolution's still slated for this month. I think it's either I can't remember if it's the 16th or 22nd, one of those two dates.
But we expect it's going to be a similar thing with Impeccable, Immaculate, that kind of thing. There might not be a Chronicles. They might break out some of the specific sets from Chronicles.
Possibly.
I don't even think that Ryan and Adam are know for sure exactly what the release schedule is, but there's more of that stuff coming. We won't talk about AEW. We're supposed to be seeing a metal set someday, and it's not here yet. Maybe this month, maybe not. On the indie side, again, see, for me, it's when I archive the stuff. It's when I sort of think, oh, this was new on the month. But the one thing we did get that we had a little chat about is the Leaf Heroes of Wrestling.
Yep.
Let's talk about that. What's your thoughts on that? On first of all, let's talk about the look of the artwork, because
I'm
that was
gonna.
the first thing a lot.
I sent a message off to Chuckster immediately about it when I was looking for images. We had requested images for the checklist. We were told we were going to get images. We never did. So
Right.
we had to wait till they hit the secondary market. I find them very cartoonish. They're very caricature type stuff. I feel like there's something I'd find at the Arizona State Fair. Sorry, that's just how I feel about them.
Yeah, here's the thing. On Price Guide, I chose the Steve Austin image because if you look at that image and you cut him at the neck here, I don't think that that's Steve Austin. Certainly from the neck down it is, but some of them have been sort of contorted or distorted or whatever in the art that
Yep.
you almost can't tell who it is. And I think Austin is one of the bad ones. And I think, was it you? I think you mentioned you talked to Brian at Leaf, or someone said he was
Somebody did.
trying to be whimsical was the quote
Yeah,
that
I commented on it on the store account
whimsy is one of those
because
words.
yeah, he said it was supposed to be a whimsical take on the wrestling worlds like that or whatever.
Yeah,
And I
interesting
thought,
choice of words
yeah,
on
a
that.
very interesting choice of words.
I guess the way we got to summarize it is it's subject to personal taste. It's not for everybody. But hey, when these guys came out here, Tony, this is my Leaf book, but when these guys first came on the scene, I don't know if you can see these.
Yeah.
I thought some were good, but some of them not so much. You know what I mean? But on these, I'll say this about the new sets. I have it here. I just got the one. It does fill out a page. Can you see it there? It does fill out.
By the way,
there, this way. Anyways,
Yeah.
it does fill out the page very well. Like it looks good on the page, but like that Flair looks goofy. See, the Cena's not bad. The Hogan's not bad.
They're all good. I think they're all goofy to me. They all look like bobbleheads.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
I just want to take my card and shake it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so that's not really a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's just a comment on the artwork. I mean, it seems like Armand's posting the autographs fairly regularly. I think he's chasing them.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a well-received set, and I'm happy that Leaf has done another dedicated wrestling set like those couple that I showed you there, and then they did one, 2, 3 years
I'm
back.
curious to find out. Hopefully we can find out someday. I remember at the National last year, I spoke to Brian at the booth, and he was. Well, I've been requesting him to come on and talk wrestling cards for almost 2 years now, and every time he tells me he would love to, but he never seems to follow up. But that's
Ryan
just
Gray,
typical, I
Leaf,
guess.
if you're out there, you got 2 fans, come chat with us.
Come chat with us, man. But I remember at the National last year we talked, and he said there were supposed to be 2 dedicated wrestling sets that were coming out in 2022, and I'm wondering if this is something that was supposed to come out last year that came out this year, and if that's the case, do we have something coming out later this year that he's going to be putting out? So I'm not sure.
Right.
Maybe this is one of 2. So, but I mean, it's just a slow month in releases. I know there's been a few. I mean, we could get down into it, but I don't want to get too deep into it, which there were some issues with the TNT.
Let's get into that because I'm kind of on the outside on that. Am I hearing things right that these people are fucking people over and they're not sending what they're supposed to be sending, and it's gone that route?
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's.
I know Chuck got two of the DOA sets, but one was supposed to be for me and only one showed up.
Yeah, so he's not the only one.
He also got the Rax one too. I don't know if I think that's still coming to me.
Yeah,
he got 2 Rax ones, but that's not TNT, is it? That's
I don't think so. No. But when
the GCW versus TNT, they've reprinted those, no?
I don't know. We don't know if they reprinted them. According to them, they have not reprinted. They've only made
But
X amount of sets,
some have turned up.
and then all of a sudden they're finding others. Somehow things got mixed up, things got put in storage, things got left here, things got left there, and they're just kind of finding things as they go
But
along.
Anthony paid like $310 for that set, didn't he?
Well, good for him.
Right.
Couldn't have
But
happened to a nicer
he was
guy.
the only one. He was the only one,
But he wasn't
right?
the only one that paid a lot of money, and so there's a lot of talk about it. But like, you know, there's
Yeah, I missed all
something
that.
there's something fishy going on according to some of the people out there. Now, the Brotherhood group that we talk to, that we have on Twitter, who again, excellent group of guys out there who track this stuff down.
They're the first and last source.
They're the first and last to me as
It's
well.
what they say goes in my book.
Yep. If it's an independent stuff like that, these guys are. I'm not going to use that word.
They're on it.
They're on it. Yeah. So they're totally 100% on it. But they're the guys, and so they're kind of always investigating this kind of stuff. But you know, and Chuckster wasn't the only one. Chuckster was the first one to say, "Hey, great, I got my set. However, I ordered 2 sets, I only got 1." And somebody else said, "Hey, same thing with me. I ordered 2 sets, I only got 1." And somebody else said, "Hey, same with me. I ordered 2 sets, I only got 1." So I don't know what's going on there. I have a theory though, and my theory is, as you and I have been talking a lot over the months about printing, we went and experienced this through our wrestling collector series. And again, we're still working on things. I don't believe these people have a legit printing place that they can go and get stuff done. So they're kind of piecing things out as they can afford it. So I'm thinking that if their intent is to have 50 sets, they've probably only printed out 25, because that's all they can really afford to do at this time. And then go back and get more. I don't know. I don't think they've printed everything all in one.
We know print economics, you know.
Yes.
If you could print 25, you can print 75. You know what I mean?
Understand that. But if they're using other services or not giving them the price points that we know exist out there.
It's not necessarily that they're knowingly stiffing us over here or not shipping.
Yeah.
Or we're not sure, because one of those 2 sets for Chuck was supposed to be for me. So I'd kind of like to see it come in.
Yeah.
Right. And I did TNT versus GCW. Again, I might have that set en route to me now. I don't know. I'm a little bit out of the loop on this indie stuff. To be honest with you, the way it works is Chuck says, I've gotten this set, which means that he's got one for me too. And then I send him the money.
Yep.
But months and months, not months, but weeks could pass and a bunch of other things can happen. Of course, I'm focused on the day-to-day Panini with Chuck.
Sure.
And that's so when it comes, it's kind of surprises. Oh yeah. And I know for a fact that I wanted that Rax roast beef one, not the major pod, the GCW, but they just were gone. And then Chuck all of a sudden said, "Hey, I got us 2." I'm like, "How?" They were like $150. He said they just came up and I grabbed them. So I don't have them here yet, but I presume they're on the way. Yeah. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. I wasn't sure what it was with those TNT guys.
But you know, anybody who's watching this or listening to this, if you know more about this, please leave it in the comments like that, so that we can get some clarification on that. But that's the best of my knowledge of what's been going on as far as you know, some of these international sets that are coming out. It's like, but it's bizarre. It's just bizarre.
Our apologies if we've missed anything on the indie side. Again, I was away, and we sort of get them from the guys in the Brotherhood, and when we see them, and we archive them sort of at certain times. But nothing. Did we talk about the Impact set last month? I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah, we brought that up.
I should mention that's a way better looking set than the past couple of years. Like it's
it is from what I've seen and the images I saw. It looks a lot better.
I felt hosed, I got to tell you, on those first couple of years, because you had to buy the set to get the 3 autographs.
Well, you're guaranteed to get the 3 autographs. Yeah.
Yeah. If you bought 3 of them. So I end up with all these extra sets, and then you end up paying, you know, like a lot it'd be
$100 for all 3.
Right. You know, and then you do that every time. Right. It starts adding up. And this is a comment I made earlier this week or earlier this month about when I put up the picture of the suckers, about when did wrestling cards, particularly on the indie side, become $2 a card? Like when we did our set, you know, I wanted there to be value. So I made sure before you even introduced the metal card that there's going to be 50 cards for $40, because I wanted 40 to be the price point. But there's a lot of guys that are selling me like 12 cards for $40 on the indie side, you know, and that's a bit unreasonable in my book, that you should be paying that for a card of someone that I've never even heard of.
But again, that goes back to I don't think a lot of these places are
printing quantity.
I don't think they're tied into printing services that allow them to have those
Right.
kind of price points.
Right.
They are sometimes, I think they're too quick to jump the gun. They go to places like tops.com that use their custom
Right.
cards over there, and they're
And that's
expensive.
not the way to make cards. I mean, we
No,
made our cards, and I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but our cards were printed in Ontario at the company that does the overflow work for Upper Deck. So, you know, when someone suggested that our card set was homemade once, I took exception to that. I said, no, you should know who actually did the printing on these.
yeah,
It's quite far away from homemade,
yeah.
right? You know,
And then
and
and on the flip side, we had the metal cards printed here in Tempe, Arizona, it's like that.
yep.
And this is not just some run of the mill small
No,
mom and pop
they're a big
organization.
comic book
Yep.
enterprise, you know,
So
so
they've done a lot of different printings like that, and I've been, they did clearly they did some good work because of both printing companies. And what's surprising too is that when we were kind of looking for printing companies, we both sort of did our own little thing. And you
yeah,
looked up north, and I looked over here, and surprisingly, both companies were almost identical in their print costs based on what we're
correct.
asking for.
Correct.
So,
For two guys off the street with
yep,
certain quantities, this is what you're paying.
yep,
The other thing that was thrown out there, and I don't know if I buy it necessarily, was that perhaps some of the wrestlers are actually getting paid now. So that's
true,
why, you know, that could affect the economics of it. But I'm
which
not
should have
so
been all
sure.
along.
Yeah, I believe a lot of these guys, you know, they sign their releases, and the idea is that normally a good promoter or a good producer of a set will say, hey, here's 50 sets or 40 of your cards so that you can sign them at the events and these kinds of things. And they work out a barter organization. That's how it is with Greektown and all the
Sure.
guys that come and go. It's a revolving door of people in the Northeast that work these territories and come up here to perform. And the way these things are done varies from sort of indie fed to indie fed and producer to producer. But I don't want to think that because all of a sudden there's guys like the Brotherhood, and there's a whack of us that are buying these indie sets, no questions asked. If you run a small indie federation, you put out a card set, we're going to buy it because that's what we do. You know, we buy wrestling cards and archive them and want to have them. But I don't like the idea of people taking their shot, their pound of flesh. Oh, well, we've got a built-in market of 50 guys that are going to buy them no matter what. So we're going to charge this, you know, like there should be some reasonableness to the pricing.
Yeah.
You know, now, of course, Panini comes along and they've blown through the roof what we would have paid with tops, et cetera, et cetera. But that's at a whole different level. The indie guys that are basically putting these cards out to promote themselves and more importantly, promote their guys. Yes, the card, look, we made a few bucks on our cards. No one's
Mm,
going on vacation off of it or
mm,
anything, but
yeah.
you're allowed to make a little bit. But you know, no one's getting rich off of it either. You know,
Mm,
the idea that these card sets, like our card set was to promote us, you know, this
mm-hmm.
time in the hobby, and it worked, you know, with all the intermingling that happened with everybody. And that's what happens a lot of times with these indie cards is they end up going, like, for example, I have cards from all these federations down in the States that I didn't even know about. So it's
Yeah.
educational for me. Like, you know, Phoenix Pro, I didn't know who they were, or this federation, that federation, you know. So that's we find out about it. But I find that some of the pricing has gotten expensive,
Yep.
and it doesn't need to be. So I hope that these guys aren't trying to take advantage of our good graces in buying these things sight unseen, no questions asked.
Well, with that, I'll leave it at that because there will be a whole new episode coming out talking about this very thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think you wanted to get together with Chuck and Caleb and some of the indie
yep,
guys and explore this in more detail. And that would be a good show because Caleb's been doing some interesting things with his monthly updates and some of the things to look for.
yep,
But we don't have a dedicated indie show. And be good, be good if you guys sort of filled that gap. I mean, Ryan and Adam talk about the new releases as they come out. You and I recap the month across the
yep.
board and look at the top end pricing. That would be good, you
Yeah,
know, is
there's
to
some
have something. It
inter
doesn't maybe not every month, every second or third month, a sort of indie recap, going into more detail than what you and I do on these things that come out and talk about
100%.
some of the, yeah, some of the better products so that they don't sort of get swept under the rug because we do come back to a lot of these things, like the pro wrestling gorillas and the limitless. Like this is history now. It's all lore. At the time, we didn't know what was going on, right? And we
Yeah,
would have meant oh, there's something called limitless, and that was it. We didn't think about it, but all it takes is an MJF, right? You know,
that's it.
to be on a card, and all of a sudden now there's a light shone on these things, and there's
Yeah.
value.
I
I
feel
have
good
my
about I feel really good about us kind of capturing that discussion with the three key guys. I think that were really intricate in making that set. Hey, there's
yeah,
something special here, and these guys knew ahead of time.
yeah,
So
and
it feels good
and
about
they saw
having
it
that
coming.
conversation.
Yeah.
Let's jump right
I
into
feel good that just to cap off the indie
yeah,
side, like I've got
oh,
the one MWR or MNR with the
yeah, yeah,
Tyler
yeah.
Black card. Then there's the yellow ones with Mercedes.
Yep.
That I've got a bunch of the
CCW or something like that.
CC, but yeah,
Yeah.
I've got most of the old ones, not all of them, but most of them, and
Yeah.
tons of the new stuff. But you never know who you're going to find in those. Like you mentioned just before we started talking, that Carrying Cross, Killer Cross had something in that Mexican AA or CML.
Yeah,
I
it's this
don't.
one right here. By the way, folks, breaking. Did anybody know that there was an actual binder for the
Yeah, there was a
AAA set
binder.
that came out? An
No one knew
official
that.
binder actually came out. Somebody came in the store, dropped this off for me.
Right. Anyway,
Nice.
so the Killer Cross, I don't have those Mexican cards, but I didn't, all of a sudden you pick that up one day and you find, oh, look who's here.
Yep.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
So let's get right into our, you want to do top sales? Or you want to do market index first?
Let's do top sales because there's more to talk about there. Like
Got it.
it was a big month. We didn't have a Rock Black sell for $126,000, but we had like some big number sales, and we normally bang off the top 10 and say these are 10 that we find towards the top of the stratosphere. And normally by the time you get down to number 10, you're looking at cards in the $2,000 range.
Not this month.
Not this month. We started a high of 17,000 when we ended a low of 56, 55. And then I've even marked a bunch more that are offer lists that would, on any regular month, made our list because there was so many sales. And it's indicative, Tony, of the juice that's being pumped into the hobby now, that we're getting these big sales. I made the point that it's a big month whenever we have a 5-figure sale in cards. We had 4 of them this month, and then 1, 2, 3 very, very close behind. Is this the result of the Rock 101? We're not going to get into that. That's a discussion that could be had for the end of time.
Yep.
And we'll talk a little bit about the PSA 10 Rock, but again, we're not going to get into it in a lot of detail. We're here to report the numbers, guys, and
Yep.
not make a subjective valuation on whether that price was right or not. We're just saying, hey, someone paid this, whether high or low. This is what happened, and then next, But
Yeah, and I also don't want to get into this whole debate. Like, these are legit sales. This is not some shill stuff. This is not some unconfirmed stuff. It just seems like some people like to just want to gravitate towards like, well, but I don't need well, but I don't need
No, to
and
the best of
ifs.
our knowledge, these are legit sales. We're not
Yes.
doing this and making shit up,
No.
or taking things that are questionable. We're trying to frame a discussion at the top end of the hobby. And again, there are other guys that talk about prices in general. We just get off on looking at the top numbers because that
Correct.
gives us enough gifts as to where we are. In the grand scheme of cards and non-sports, we're 6, 7, 8, whatever we are in the grand list. But anyways, let's get into it.
Yep.
The biggest sale was the 2022 John Cena Prism Black. It was a BGS 9.5, and it went through PWCC for $17,100. Now that's a big number.
That's a big
You know,
number for Cena, especially.
for Cena especially, we've never had anything close like this on Cena. And again, I don't want to get too much into what that 126,000 Black Rock means to the Black Cena, or what it means to the Black Brett or the Black Sean, because this is so subject to interpretation and also subject to the vagaries of the market. One day to the next, 1 hour to the next, the
Yep.
prices change. You need, sorry guys, you need 2 people to want a card to get a big number. Right.
Yep.
And if you don't get that second person on day 1, you might get it on day 2. And if you don't get it on day 1, you're not going to get a mind-blowing number. And that's the reality of it. So to suggest that, that the reason why this happened is because of another cross-collateral sale that happened somewhere else, it's tricky for me to make that mental connect,
Mm-hmm.
So again, we don't want to, I'll talk about the 10, but anyways. So the number 2, and this is great. The second one was 82 Hulk Hogan Wrestling All Stars. So if someone wants to say, "Hey, modern Prism wins," no. If someone wants to say vintage wins, no. There's a perfect cross section here of new, old in the top 4.
Yep.
That shows that it's the entirety of the hobby. It's not just the new.
Which is such a great thing. It's such a great thing. I love seeing numbers like this that just shows that it's the hobby in general that's thriving and doing well.
Correct. So PSA Hogan All Star, PSA 8 went for 11,211. Good number.
That's a big number.
We know that the top number on that card is 55-ish, and we're going to see that number again on that card. We won't ever see another Rock come up again unless it's that same very one.
Yep.
And remember, we talked about this, and it's been said ad infinitum. That Rock card was preordained. It was determined before it was even printed that this is going to be the card. The first Black Prism in any set is the Grail. So it doesn't matter. And luckily it was the Rock. Luckily it was a nice looking card, and 2 people wanted it. And there you have it, guys.
Yep.
That's it. Don't need to talk about shilling. It wasn't shilled. We know it wasn't shilled. But It's almost an unanswerable question. I think Adam asked Ryan this yesterday. He asked him a question and said, "Do you think this is going to sell for more or less?" And I could see Ryan going, "I almost can't answer that." And I go, "No, you can't answer that. That's the right answer.
Yeah,
We just don't know."
we
Okay,
don't.
so number three is probably the one that got the most discussion this month, the 2022 Rock Prism Gold PSA 10 for $10,800. Now, $10,800 is nothing to sneeze at, but
Nope.
when I published this sale, a few comments came, and one of them was, "Well, you're not really giving the whole story on this and the other side." And I'm thinking, yeah, this is a fucking tweet. I got 4 lines. I can't really explain to you what this means, but I'm not going to get into too much detail. But of course, some people are like, "Oh man, this is really low. It should have went higher. The market underperformed on this
It
card."
cracks me up because you can't win. Like, oh, that's
No,
too high. Oh, that's too
right.
low.
Some other people, some other people think that, this is indicative of Prism just being a load of hooey because look, this same card on a PSA 8 sold for $600 more a few months ago. So
Yeah.
what does that tell you? It tells you that Prism's in a nosedive. It tells you this, tells you that. You know what, guys? It doesn't tell us shit. It really doesn't. It's all subject
It
to
tells me that's how
interpretation.
much that card is worth at that moment because that's the crowd and the market that was
My
looking at
honest
that time.
opinion is probably not a popular one. The next one that comes up, there'll be people are saying, "Oh, that 10.8 was low, it'll get recaptured the next time around." I don't think so. I think it might even go lower next time. And that might not be a popular opinion, but that's just my opinion. When the first one came out a year and a bit ago, in an eBay auction just for the rock card, and went for 9 grand. And I saw that auction. I was like, wow, that's a good number, and that's about what it should be, in my opinion. And then, of course, Adam and his group of guys went and interfered with the auction, and we know what happened there. But that to me was the right price then for the rock card. I felt that was right. And people are saying no, it's 50, and that caused a lot of dissension. Even myself, that's what got my back up the most, is that when people were saying that's what it was, that the black card was 6 figures, and it wasn't then. It is now, yes, but it wasn't then, right? And I spoken to the guy that sold the black card then, and he told me that it was around 60K without being specific. But again, I didn't repeat that because it was just me talking to a guy. It means nothing, right? So the fact that it got 10-2 is disappointing to some, is right to guys like me. And some people think it's too high, even still. But remember that these things, they're fluid, and something like this tomorrow can go for 5 grand more, or
It could go 5 grand less.
maybe not 5 grand less, but 3
It
grand
could.
less.
Again,
You know what I mean?
that's not just a matter of the card itself specifically. You have to keep in mind that not everybody's looking and willing to pay for that kind of
Correct.
price at that moment. So it's all
Right.
about timing too.
No,
Timing is a
people with
very
money
big
have
key.
lives and they have shit on the go. And if last night was a busy night for them, they were at such and such ball out until 2 o'clock in the morning, and they forgot that the auction on Golden was ending.
Yeah.
They don't care because they'll buy something else next week.
It's the craziness
We're the
of like
ones,
something about
we're
eBay.
the
So I
ones
mean,
hanging off every syllable here of what sold for what. And, and again, I think I mentioned it already. There's a Ryan and Adam did a specific look at some of these recent prices. So in other words, they took some of these numbers and tried to sort of figure out, were they low, high, were they about right? And they resolved nothing because all it is
no,
just a fun
it's all
discussion.
it's just discussion and speculation.
Yeah,
Is
we
all it is.
enjoy this kind of thing, and we like talking about it, but no one's right. No one's right at all. To try and suggest that, oh, this should have been higher. I thought it was going to go higher. It didn't. I think the next one might go lower. And there are people that say, "Oh man, you're crazy. It's for sure the next one's going to go up." We just don't know.
To me, the right amount is the amount that it ended up selling for. That's the right amount.
Correct.
Because
Yeah, it's
somebody
what
was
the
willing to
market
pay for
bears.
that and someone wanted that.
I live in the world of real estate, and it's what the market bears, on the hour,
Exactly.
on the day.
100%.
And that's what it is. When someone asks me for a comparable, that's all I can give them. I can only give them what, a willing buyer and seller agree to at that moment. And of course it's different a day later, an hour later. But anyways, so that's the one. Again, go watch the last video that Adam and Ryan did. If you're curious, if you want to hear more of the sort of take on the specifics of why they think that maybe that should have traded for a little bit more. And
Yeah, you can check that out here on the WTC network, right?
Yep.
You can check that out right here.
Yep.
So
Yep.
number 4.
That was a good episode. Number 4 was the Hulk Hogan Poppy autograph, 8.5. That's the Poppy Kajiwara one. I think Hopkins was the one that pointed that out to us. I didn't have my original list.
Mm.
That sold through Golden, 10,200. And by the way, Golden, 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 Golden. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these are through Golden. One was from PWCC, and we're going to chat about that more in a bit. But that's an interesting phenomenon, that more and more cards are going to go to the higher auction houses because these guys just can't take their chances on eBay. You know, that with the way things are set up, at least there's a certain measure of security, if you will, by going through Golden on some of these things. So the next one we got after that, number 5, is the 2022 Bret Hart Prism Black, $9,000, right? And
Nice.
again, they're subject to interpretation. April 2022, this would have gotten more. Some people argued that it did, that it got 20 the first time. I don't know, because it wasn't a legit sale. All I know is this is what it got for now on Golden. So if it got that on Golden, it's legit and the number's good. Next one down is the Michaels Prism Black. And it's interesting. You got Sean and Brett side by side, two contemporaries of each other.
Mm.
And it went for $8,040 on Golden. So $1,000 less. And these are the one of ones black prisms. And yes, they're lower than that Magic Week in April last year, but this is the true market talking now, I think.
Yep.
You know, we've had enough time that we can say, okay. And another thing I'll mention maybe at the end of this is that now that we've gotten these prices, the discussion should be over. All the bones of contention and all of the fragmentation and everything that's going on in the hobby should end, should it not? But we'll get to that in a bit. 2022 Brock Lesnar Prism Black 7,200. So, you know, Brett for 9, Sean for 8, Brock for 7. You know, some might say, well, how's Brock lower than Sean? Well, guys, you know, come on, you know. Number 8, Hulk Hogan, impeccable auto, 1 of 1, $6,766. Again, vintage name on a modern card, big number. Number 9 is the 2022 Roman Reigns White Sparkle Prism Autograph, 1 of 1. That sold for $5,700 on on Golden. And those white sparkle prisms, you know, I just buy the base cards. But if I was to spend on anything on the chase side, it would be those white sparkles, because
they're very beautiful looking
they're
cards.
absolutely beautiful. And then the last one on the list, and this is a great one, 1982 Ivan Putski Wrestling's All-Star PSA 9, sold for $5,655. Foolish power. Good for him.
Yeah.
That made the list. But here's what's interesting about this month. You know what else sold that didn't make our list? There was a Randy Savage WCW PSA 9 autograph sold for $4,150.
Incredible.
Now, on any other given month, that would have been one of our top sales of the month, but it doesn't get about this month. Ava Rain, or what's the Rock's daughter's name? Her 2023 Black Prism sold for $4,999.
Damn.
Didn't make the list. 2023 Mick Foley Black Gold Prism, or sorry, Black Prism, $4,500. Didn't make the list. 2023 Bret Hart Prism, Black Prism, 2275. It didn't make the list. So there's some big numbers across the board, guys, that are filling this in. Like I could go to a top 20 now and still be higher than where we left off last month. So that's an all indicative of just more juice coming into the hobby.
Love it.
The hobby might be down on the whole, but these sales don't lie. They're happening. And we didn't have these sales a month ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago. So it's definitely flush times in wrestling cards. We're starting to attract that collector or that investor, that level of person that spends a little more on the big sports, and they're starting to dip their toe in wrestling, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I love these monthly recaps because they really show us the progression of our hobby. And like you said, I think we're now at a place where we're at true market value now. These things are actually really starting. It's taken a year. I don't think there should be any discussion about it. We got to stop with the picking of things that comments that were made a year and a half ago. We're beyond that now. We're in a new year, new stuff. We've got new releases coming out, and as you said, our market now is sort of really kind of showing what its true value is right now. So that can change it, like I said, at any moment. It could change an hour from now, a day from now, a week from now.
It's interesting to me, before we get into the index, I just touched upon it. Like this rock gold prism was sort of the bone of contention. It was sort of the fulcrum on which the hobby was sort of, you know, a bunch of people saw it one way, a bunch of people saw it the other. But it's all over now, guys. You know, we have the data. It's all happened. So why do we need to carry on with the animosity? And, you know,
there's that level of people's expectations of thought that, well, this person overpaid and they shouldn't be. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter if you can't sit here and dictate other people's spending habits. You're not going to tell me how I grocery shop. You're not going to tell me what kind of car I'm going to buy. You're not going to tell me what kind of house I'm going to buy. So it's mine. If you feel like I overpaid, great. It's not your money. It's my money. The market has
whatever the
said what it
reason.
said, and so the market has already laid out what it is. It's
Right,
fact.
but I'm
It's
talking more so
factual.
about, we talk about this divide, and Flex actually came on and made a good tweet, and he said, you know, there's no real schism or divide in wrestling. It's only about 10 guys. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's not even 10, it's 6.
Yeah.
Right. And I can whittle that down to the two most popular guys on Twitter, you know, the guys that have the biggest reach, the guys
Yep.
that have the most followers. They don't like each other, and they're not likely ever to, you know, and that's where the whole thing hangs in the balance. And then they each got their followers behind them. And it's a
Yeah.
personal thing between two people. And I just want to make the point that you and I, how do I put this delicately? Sometimes we're guilty by association, you know,
100%.
because I not support, because I commented on the black prism, and I said it was a good thing for wrestling. Some of the anti-prism guys thought that I'd drunken their Kool-Aid now. It's like, guys, grow up, you
No.
know.
Hey, that's
I
okay. But you,
I'm friendly. I'm friendly. I
according to
mean,
others,
I can't speak for you, you know, but I'm friendly with everybody in this hobby. There is nobody that I don't like, right? And I interact with a lot of you guys, and I appreciate the relationship that I have with a lot of you. And I don't care about your beefs, and I don't care about who you're friendly with and not friendly with, you know. Um, I just don't want to be crucified or condemned because all of a sudden I've associated with somebody, or, you know, that's going to invariably happen, that we know a lot of people in this hobby
yeah,
and not everybody likes each other. And I get that the cornerstone of this great divide are two guys that have done great things for the hobby and they don't like each other. Plain
yeah,
and simple.
it's
And
unfortunate, but
because of that, we have all the rest. And then, of course, you know, the absolute nonsense on Twitter and the childish tweets and all that stuff. You know, I've spoken about that before. I wish it would go away. It's not gonna, you
yeah,
know, I wish
we
I
don't
could
want to get too
go
much into
up.
this. We seem to every month we seem to kind of
Yeah.
talk about this, and
Well,
it's really boring.
you know, Adam wrote a whole thing on it this month, and
I
he
saw
was
that.
correct on a lot
Yeah,
of what he says, but obviously he's one of the prognosticators of the whole thing. So, you know, a lot of people are going to take issue with it. And
sure.
I'll say this, on the last episode that they did yesterday, they humbled themselves a little bit. Both Ryan and Adam said, look, you know, we know that we're not liked, you know, and it's true. And if there was ever going to be a healing of all of this, it takes those two guys and a couple of guys on the other end to understand that, hey, we're in the same hobby, we collect the same things, but I don't think it's going to happen. I've tried, you know, I tried to put a
Oh, of
set together
course, I
where
know,
I,
because
you know,
it's because you're just
you've seen my efforts,
you're
you
too
know,
Canadian. That's what the problem is. You're too Canadian. So,
because
um,
I don't like it. I don't like the
well,
fact that
nobody likes it, but
I'm
then
friendly
again,
with this guy, I'm friendly with that guy,
nobody
and
likes it.
this guy doesn't like it. Like,
Yeah,
you know, this was the first month ever that I was ever attacked by somebody, you know, spoken to in a manner that was like, holy shit, I do this for free. I do
yeah,
this out of the goodness of my time because I enjoy doing this. Like, if this was business and my real estate company and you're talking this way, I'd fucking kill you. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
I mean, it's
I wouldn't tweet back to you and apologize for something I didn't do and try and make things right. You know what I mean?
well,
That
I guess it means nothing in the
so
grand scheme.
I find we might be getting drawn in a little bit, and I refuse to. You know, I just refuse to. You
Yeah,
know,
so,
I think I honestly think there's a very small group of people on both sides, and then 97% of us think it's nonsense.
yeah,
Could do without it. You
so,
know, live, you know, and just forget about it.
yeah. Well, hashtag mastermind. That's all I know. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's over now, guys.
So
There's nothing to pin on the other side now. We've been through all the contortions of everything that can happen with the rock gold and the rock prism and this and that. It's over. It's over.
all
You
right.
know, so unless there's some new bone of contention that we want to get going, I can't see why we just can't put all this behind us. Anyways.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and move on over to our market price index, which is always a fun thing too, as well. So
Yeah,
let's
well,
get started with that.
yeah, AEW Hobby Box. We look at
Well,
the
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second here. So let's jump right in that here in a minute. Let's get right to the market index here, as we were talking about here, and still anything that you find interesting about this one? Or are we still kind of par for the course?
Yeah, I think it was par for the course.
That's
You
what
know,
I feel.
yeah, like in looking at it, you know, my eye always goes to the Hogan because we know that's 30 to 35 bucks. So I want to see if that's off. And believe it or not, I go to the Panini, the 2022 Panini box that went down to 200, just because that's the most storied box in wrestling card history.
Yeah.
Um, but it's actually gone up again. You know, it averaged out at 257. Anyways, let's go down the list quickly.
Okay.
2021 AEW hobby box averaged out at $73.24,
Around the
and the
same.
2022 box averaged out at 71.97. So they're low 70s, and yeah, they're the same exactly from last month.
Do you
The
think that that should be the expected price for those kind of products? Like that's what the market, I mean, that's what they should have been around that price all along, 75, $80.
I think so. Don't you? Don't you agree with that number?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair considering the fact they don't offer you any guarantees and that. But even if they did, I still think that's probably, like one autograph or a relic in a box.
Yeah, to make it worth it. Remember, I don't have your experience or most guys' experience with boxes, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
live in the world of box breaks and whatnots and things like that. That's for you guys to put together into a master set. Then we talk, but it
yeah,
seems based on the data that's right.
yeah, it seems to be that's pretty much the average price point, I think. I mean, that still fits in line with, back in the Fleer days too, when Fleer had the
Yeah,
license. I mean, stuff was around $65, to nothing more than like $80, $90 a box. I can't recall paying that high but that's also a different time, different economics. And now when Topps got the license, things changed a little bit, but the price point still remained under $100 a box for
right,
most of their flagship type products. We're not talking about Transcendent, of course, and Undisputed,
right.
things like that. But even Undisputed, I mean, that would, until the later years when it was hitting that $200, $300 price point out the gate, it was still in that 150 price point, which was pretty high for wrestling stuff. So
Yeah.
for
Well, look at the next one on
this,
our list
mhm.
is the Panini Prism box, and that's up to 257, and that's always been an expensive box, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously we had the blown out of proportion type price points when it first
Yeah, yeah,
came
and
out,
the
but
roller coaster,
it's
and
it's settled in that price point range like that. And I've always said this all the months in the past year was that, if it dipped down to that 150 price point, that's not going to be out of the realm. I thought when that was their suggested retail price from the beginning. So sitting at about $100 more than a suggested retail price, I think this is an average decent price point for it right there.
we didn't get below 200. There has been some individual sales that might have slipped below 200, but I think on the average was always just above two, and then it
I
went up to
think, well, back in
234,
back
and
in
now it's up to
December
260.
back in December was our lowest price point. It was about 190.
So it did drop below two just.
It just below. I mean, we never
Yeah.
gone below the 190.08 on the average price point, but before
Okay.
that was like around $200, but 190 was the lowest. It's never dipped below that again.
Yeah, and now it's up,
Yep.
right? Now, is that because of the Black Rock
I don't, we could use that as a
as
discussion
a
point
thing?
for everything going forward if we really want. And I'm going to say there could be a sliver of that possibly, but I just think that the market is getting wider for wrestling cards and people are excited about wrestling. There's a lot to be collected, a lot nostalgia to
That's
be
going to be a
had.
thing. The Black Rock is going to be the reason for everything being what it is going forward. You know what I mean? Like when
Yeah.
Joe from Mercedes calls me and says, "Hey, we got some cars on the lot, Black Rock." I'm like, "Okay, I understand the economics. I
I
got
mean,
it.
there could be definitely an argument for that. I mean, obviously,
You
Ryan
can hang
and
your hat
Adam
on
have
it."
probably covered that. So,
Yeah, yeah, they did.
but
They did. I mentioned the Hulk Hogan Topps 85 sitting pretty at $32 where it always sits. And then there's the 1991 Impel base set, slipped down, but we only had three sales. So when you only have three instead of the nine to come up with a proper average, that slipped down to $10.66.
I knew, starting in the beginning of this year, I knew if I cut back on the production of this stuff, it would
That would
probably,
happen.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, but
uh,
shouldn't that raise the prices when you stop making them?
you would think
Isn't
so,
that
but I
supply and
think I think
demand?
once people start saying, "Hey, I can't find anymore," now
Yeah,
we had five last month that made up our average price point.
that's
We had
right.
a full nine, which we were using our
Yeah.
our monthly gauges, uh, and then now we're down to three. So wait for a couple months when they're like, "Hey, nothing to report, nothing to report, nothing to report." Oh, well, you know what? Maybe I'll introduce a setter here. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Like
Such a fickle
we
market.
joke about this set, but the reality is it's sort of the set that's always around. Like if you go anywhere, you're going to stumble across these impels. You know, but eventually, at some point, they're all going to get scooped up, are they not? And
You would
maybe
think. I mean,
we're finally getting to that point where they've all been bought.
yeah,
And
maybe.
then that ought to raise the prices.
Mm,
It's a great set. We rib it and such, but I like it.
that set
Just
is the that set is the
it's
it's the epitome of early '90s wrestling, man. It just
yeah.
really is. I mean,
Yeah, it's
like,
got a special place in my heart. I remember buying it on the time, at that time, getting that set and thinking it was cool. No idea that it would loom large for as long as many decades as it has. But
Such a contrast in marketing. No play on words here, obviously, but between that and championship marketing, where you had both came out that same year. Impel goes after a more fun, colorful, bright, clearly aimed towards kids
younger.
of a
Yeah.
younger crowd, whereas the championship marketing was more darker, a little more there's some scary images in there with
Seriousness.
the Sid, so it's more towards an adult type of collector, I think. But I love them both,
But the Impels are the ones that have endured. The
of
marked
course.
champion, yeah, the championship ones are in the lexicon, but they're nowhere near the level or the lore
Of
of
course.
the
I mean,
yeah.
it's nowhere near in the sense of like it's been repeated on so many indie card sets, copying that design because it's such a
Oh,
historic type of card set.
probably the
But
most copied design.
probably,
Yeah.
but the championship marketing has had a few people who have
Yeah.
actually
Oh,
copied the
yeah.
design as well.
And obviously the
And
87 tops, and we've seen a bunch, but
I'd love to do a deep dive on the championship marketing and see and do like maybe for fun, find out how many of those have sold over a month.
yeah, well, maybe that's something we can do if we can even find such a thing. Because we've
Yeah.
talked about shifting the things around. A couple of the newer things is the Immaculate Hobby Box we added a few months back.
Yeah.
Last month it averaged out to $395, so just under $400 a box, and it averaged out this month to 407, so around the same, around
Yep.
$400. A lot of people like the Immaculate product. There was a lot of good auto stuff. There's some beautiful relics in that set. That's the one that I don't have yet, but I'm still banging away. I'm about halfway there on the Immaculate base set. But it's tricky. It's hard to put them together because some of these pieces are still $30, $40 cards, right? And I'm
Yeah.
trying to do all 100 of them. So it's going to be, if I get there, if I'm able to put together this set as well as all the other ones I've done so far, that'll be accomplishment, I think, to manage. I'm not aware of anybody else that's even close on Immaculate. So curious to see if that's something that is within the realm of possibility. A couple of cards here, a couple of cards there, and over a week you've bought 10 more.
I know you really enjoy just being a buy one and done, buy it and have it kind of thing, but
I don't think
this has got to be some. I know it's troublesome because of pricing and because you're in Canada. I understand that the shipping
well,
costs are, but
Chuck makes it possible,
yeah,
obviously, right?
there's got to be some level of the thrill, the chase for you, is there not? None.
Well, again, we've talked about this before. It's just money, right? There's nothing special that any of us are doing, but just paying money for a guy to send us a card in an envelope. It's
Well, if you're going to break it down to the basics like that, of course, but from a collector standpoint, are you not having fun chasing it down at all?
not really.
Even a little bit?
I would rather, like, I bought the Prisms all in one go, this year's and last year's. I got the NXTs all in one go. I got the Revolutions all in one go. It's only the Impeccable, the higher end of the selects, and
Spectrum was a big one for you too.
which one was Spectrum? No, I did that. That's AEW. I didn't get
Yeah, yeah.
Spectrum.
You
Yeah,
didn't get
that's
it?
the one. No, not yet.
Oh, that's right. Chuck's got that one.
Chuck said there's a guy that has one for me, and we just haven't come to terms on price yet. And he's not
Okay.
selling it to anybody else. So that's my set when he decides to bring it down to
Okay.
the level I'm willing to pay. But it's Immaculate and Impeccable. That are the two that you have to do by the each. You can get a
Yeah.
couple maybe, but when you're doing them one by one, and again, Chuck's doing most of the work. I'm just buying them.
Yeah. I find some kind of sense of thrill, reminds me of the older days when I was, hunting things down to try to complete my master sets, but just building things on a slow scale like that.
I guess
There's some
when
thrill to
I
the chase,
finally get
man.
them all here and I lay them out and I take that one picture for Twitter and say, okay, here's all 100 of this. Yeah, there's that sort
Sense of
of
accomplishment.
yeah, you're feeling good about that, I
Yeah.
suppose.
That's cool.
I guess to put a cap on this discussion, when I hear that I might be the only one, that no one else has bothered or just has felt that the scope is too great on these, if I am the only guy that ends up with an impeccable base set, then that makes me feel a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But it's a bear to get done, that's for sure. And I probably won't do subsequent years. I can say, okay, in the inaugural year, I collected every base card.
Yeah.
And I probably bought more Prism product than anybody, even though I didn't spend as much. I might have, but thousands and thousands of cards that I've gotten so far. So, and the last thing we've got is a 2023 Prism box. And we did that just to compare to see how it does to 2022. We don't expect it to be as high, and that in fact was the case. It's currently averaging out at about 196, so just under the $200 mark. Whereas we mentioned earlier, the 22 Prism is up at 257. So there's still a difference between an inaugural gearbox and this year's, and what we expect will follow subsequently.
As there should be, I think, and that's kind
So
of
that's it,
expected.
guys, for prices. If you guys have any questions, about any of this stuff, by all means, we have this data. We don't publish it out there for you guys, but it's here. If you ever want to see the spreadsheets, you ever want to see the list of the top stuff, by all means, give us your feedback. And again, when I publish these prices, yes, I know there's a story often that goes along with them. And just because I show 4 cards and I say, here's the Gold Rock 10 that sold for 10,000, I'm not trying to avoid the discussion on, hey, I know the last one sold for more, and I know all the conversation that's going to go around it. But on a tweet, all I can do is just show the number, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish in that moment. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
that.
just in essence, it's pretty much a conversation starter, really, what it is, and
Yeah,
let the
yeah.
discussions and threads go from there. That's kind of what it is. I mean,
So
just
here's
report
another
the facts, ma'am. Just report the
That's
facts.
it. Here's another conversation starter. PWCC that consigned the Rock Prism for $126,000 was acquired this month by Fanatics. And that's news because Topps has been acquired by Fanatics, and one of the lead box breakers has been acquired by Fanatics. And we know that it matters to us because in a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it is, we know it's been announced that the WWE license is reverting back to Topps. So Fanatics is going to be the manufacturer of that product and the producer, as they are with a lot of the WWE shops on stuff now.
Hmm.
And it leads to a lot of questions. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Are we going to have 80 Prism and Topps Chrome and all these things that we're never going to know for sure. But the one thing that we do know is that Mike Rubin and his Fanatics company are making moves. And I guess the question to you, sir, is that first of all, what are your thoughts on it? And is it a good thing? The word monopoly creeps up, and as long as there's an upper deck and a Panini, it's not a monopoly. But we can see it heading towards that.
Yeah.
What say you on this one?
Kind of indifferent on it. It doesn't really affect me per se, but as far as the hobby goes, I think we kind of expected this. I mean, we knew that they were going to go after
Consolidate.
you consolidate things into under one roof kind of thing. I mean, when you own every major license starting in 2026, 2025, 2026, it's inevitable. I mean, when we talked about like, well, was Fanatics going to back in the day when we were talking about, is Fanatics going to print their own stuff? Well, either invest the millions of dollars it takes to go and start putting that infrastructure in place, or buy somebody who already has that. And they did that. They did it with Topps.
Yeah.
To have something where they go and they acquire a license that a brand new license was just done by someone with Panini, and then announce, oh, by the way, they haven't released their stuff yet, but we're getting the license back in 2025.
Yeah.
Good luck to you guys for the next 4 or 5 years. That's just crazy too. I mean, none of this stuff surprises me anymore. So
Yeah.
is it going to be good? Is it going to be good for the hobby? I guess it depends. It depends on what your motives are within this hobby. If you're a seller, I guess it could be good or bad. As a buyer, does it affect me as a buyer? Maybe it does, in the sense that maybe it makes things more readily available to me. I don't know. We can speculate all day long, but I think it's
there's just maybe answers. I mean, me as a
all
master
maybes.
collector, I think for me as a master collector, it just means more.
Yeah.
Just fucking get more.
Yeah.
There's gonna be more of it, more. That's what.
Well, hopefully, as a master collector, it makes things more accessible to you. I don't know.
Some Prism yes, some Prism no, or sort of Panini no.
Yeah.
Like Impeccable, as we just said, and Immaculate. Not accessible to me easily. So it all depends on.
Well, it depends.
How,
it depends on that platform too. It depends between now and then. Does someone like Fanatics go out and buy Panini as well? We've heard those rumblings before.
And that
changes
the whole discussion.
It
But
does.
remember, you just said a moment ago, though, do they go out and they spend the millions on infrastructure? Remember, when we're talking about Fanatics and millions, that's like nickels and dimes to me and you.
Understood. But
they can do whatever they want, however they want.
Sure, but it makes more common sense to go,
Yes.
you know what? Why reinvent the wheel with our millions of dollars that we could do that with? Because we have that pocket change, or just go buy somebody that already has the wheel and we just refine that wheel.
But remember that these guys don't actually do the physical printing.
No.
Topps, and they just have licenses with, when I think about Fanatics buying printing, I mean buying the printing.
Yeah.
Buying the massive guy that prints wrestling cards, cigarette packets, the big printer in town. For them, it's nothing to find a location somewhere and make all their product there, if that's the way they want to go.
Mhm.
the whole the notion of buying box breakers, you know, and buying PWCC that can sign stuff for auction is interesting because it's a sort of soup to nuts approach of trying to take the business. Like it's like one day Ruben woke up and said, "Oh, I like wrestling cards. Maybe I'll get into this," and he got into it in a very big way.
Yep.
You know, to able to control all sort of uh, parts of the process is very interesting. What the business case is, you know, for it specifically with trading cards, I'm not sure, but that'll be made aware to us. And like you say, he can purchase Panini tomorrow, and then or Upper Deck for that matter. So
Mhm.
that would change the discussion. But it's interesting insofar as that PWCC came under a bit of controversy with their
Sure.
shilling stuff on eBay. Of course, their name came up again with this Black Rock, and some members of our community sort of highlighted the fact that PWCC had a less than stellar reputation, so
Sure.
perhaps this rock shouldn't be held in such high regard, et cetera, et cetera. But it's interesting. It's
Yeah.
very interesting to see the moves that Fanatics are making, and I think you're right. It's very hard. It's like asking Ryan, you know, is the price going to go up or down? You know,
Yep.
when it can do either. And I say this a lot of times when people ask me how's the real estate market doing. I said, you know what? We don't have crystal balls, and if I had one, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be laying on a beach somewhere, going to the corner store and buying a lottery ticket. Is what I'd be doing if I
Yeah,
could tell it to.
your Scandinavian trip would be an annual thing.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. It's wouldn't be a special deal for me to go to Europe. Uh, anyways, before we sign off, we're talking some interesting stuff before we signed on about what's been going on with your store, and you mentioned a few things about figures, and I thought, well, hold on to that thought because I was going to ask you now
Okay.
for everyone to get in on this. What's going on at Wrestling Store Guy Phoenix, and what are some of the big surprises and some of the big sellers and
Well,
some
we
of
got
the
a couple things
things?
going on. So, the bread and butter of the store is action figures. That takes about 70% of my sales if I look at the numbers. More specifically, the WWE Elite line of figures is been that's by far the best selling line of
Is that the more
product that I have.
is that sort of one of the mainline
It
products
is.
that
It's like it's that
kids are
middle
buying?
area line of WWE. You have what's called basics, elites, and then you have what's called ultimate. So ultimate is probably second on the list, by far away second, compared to elites, and then surprisingly basics, which are the cheapy ones. There's no bells and whistles to it. It's just strictly a figure and a package. There's no
Right.
accessories to it. Doesn't sell as well. The elite line is what everybody loves to have, it's like that. And so I've learned real quick about the pre-order business now. So I'm starting to kind of catch up on that kind of stuff. And I'm not as delayed in getting my products and stuff, but I'm getting a good mix of people in here who, I want to bring the kids in, and the kids are what drive the sales somewhat. And they're smart. Kids are smart. They also collect. They don't just buy to tear open and play. They collect. They know what the chase figures are. They know what the accessories are. But those kids have parents, and those parents were probably fans when they were
Yeah.
younger too. So I have a little bit of older stuff too, Attitude Era stuff from the 80s. So a little mix of everything. But the inventory is growing. You can't just open a store. I mean, I guess you can if you have a lot of money. If you have Reuben money, you can just open whatever the hell you want. But I'm growing here on a small budget, and it's just kind of growing little by little. Starting to fill out more. I saw some criticisms from some people once about on Twitter about like, oh, my stuff looks like it's just some kind of
Did we ever
some kind
find
of
out who that clown was?
I have no idea. It's a clown regardless. I don't care.
Well, we had that this month. We had someone that for whatever reason had a hard on for both of us, and
Yeah, I don't care.
felt
Like,
it necessary to DM me and let him know how disappointed, using me, calling me by my first name, and how disappointed he was in me. I'm thinking,
oh
good Lord,
yeah, I don't. That stuff.
you know.
I could care less what people say. I mean,
It was a
someone's
weird month for
comments.
that.
Yeah,
First time, it's the first time ever in this wrestling hobby that's happened to me, to be
yeah,
honest. Maybe I've been
same,
lucky. Yeah,
same.
maybe I've been lucky that doing these monthly shows that I take for granted that everyone's going to love us. But
No,
for the
no,
first
I don't
time,
expect that. But it's just
no, for the first time, we really had some winners out there this
Oh
month.
yeah, the guy who tweeted it's like that. It says I wish him all the best. Actually, no, I don't. And then it was saying stuff like it's just
On the YouTube thing, someone made a comment that made no sense to me. Like it was obviously a dig, and like, who are you, and what the fuck are you talking about?
yeah, but they hide behind names and walls and
Yeah,
stuff like that because they're not big enough to
yeah.
come
Show
forward. So
yourselves.
yeah, come on out, man. Come on the
Show
show.
yourself. Show
Let's
your
have a
face.
talk. Let's have a
Yeah.
talk, man. I love to have a
If
conversation
there's something
with some
that
haters.
Tony's doing in his shop that doesn't meet your standard? Kindly let us know who you are and what it is you're after.
Yeah, help me build, help me out. Maybe I'm doing it all wrong and you got a better idea. I'd love to hear you, your opinions, your thoughts to help me, because all it does is help me succeed. I'm going to
Yeah.
do whatever I can to better position myself for a chance to be successful. I know I'm rolling the dice on it and I'm doing what I can, man. It's a lot of work and I'm doing what I can.
Now, would you
Um,
say it's been a few months now? Would you say that it sort of met your expectations, fell a little shy, or exceeded?
well, let's put it this way. My
Based on
understanding
based
is
on dollars, say,
now
based on what your projected weekly intake would be.
I've always been of an entrepreneurial mindset. Okay. So, and most of my businesses have been a lot of, obviously not brick and mortar stuff.
Yeah,
So
service.
this is my first stab at doing a brick and mortar. Am I doing it in the best economy? No.
Yeah.
But I also got part of not being in the best economy has allowed me to get some better leverage when I come to my lease and stuff like that. But my understanding is businesses like this, your first year or two, you're expected to probably lose money. I can safely say right now, based on our numbers right now, that we are probably breaking even.
Good.
And in some cases, maybe even a little bit above water, but not enough for me to take home and like, hey, honey, we're going to go ahead and I'm still able to buy groceries and pay for the gas, things like that out of sales that I'm making here. So for me, that's a win, that we're doing so much and we're doing enough that we're trying to be part of the community as much as possible. That I think the customer base is being receptive of that. Like, hey, first off, everybody walks in the door. They're like, holy shit, I can't believe there's an all wrestling store in Arizona. We've never had this before. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Well, listen,
So
from one entrepreneur to the other, just tough it out, you know.
that's all I do. So I,
I've had bricks and mortar, I've had restaurants, hair salons, you name it,
yeah,
and some of them, I look back on fondly. Some of them I don't, but the secret is just get up every day and do it.
you just got to get up every day and do it. I mean, some days you're tired and
Sure,
you don't
that's
put
life.
in 100% effort, and I get that. But
Mhm.
most of the days you try to do it the best you can. And thankfully, I have a wonderful wife that is like basically I mean, she's a co-owner of the store. I mean, she without her and handling paperwork and numbers and doing a lot of social media stuff for us. I mean, a lot of stuff she's doing is also directly responsible for the kind of customers we're getting in the
Yeah,
door. So
Jen is absolutely awesome.
yeah. And so, it's doing well. So we're continuing to keep growing. Our in-store appearances are obviously helping. We just had Melina in here this past Saturday on June 3rd. And, the card series is playing well on that too. So she's card number 4 in the
Okay.
series. So,
Yeah, I still only have one, by the way, so I'm expecting when I see it at the National to get my next three.
oh, you will. So, I mean, I do one of ones for myself. We got medals of, there's Honky Tonk medal.
There's the one
There's,
medal.
there's the Atom Bomb medal. There's the Victoria medal.
Nice.
And then there's the Melina medal.
There you
So,
go.
so it was coming out nice. And so, but speaking of the store and specifically about this channel, so Paul finding this out for the first time as well now. So, specifically about this channel, coming soon on this channel, we're calling this a network as I've been saying for a long time. So, Ryan and Adam have a channel, within this network. I'm hoping to have someone talking with people about having an indie section of just on this channel, on this network. And then I'm having a channel that's devoted to the store
Nice.
on this network that will be talking to a lot of local independent wrestlers. I've already reached out to several. They're all excited about coming on. We'll be doing them right here in the store.
Cool.
And it'll be 15, 20-minute segments, maybe a half hour tops, hopefully. And we'll talk about the store. We'll talk about their career a little bit, so like them, talk
Nice.
about collectibles and, just a little
Not
something
just
that's
cards, everything, right?
everything.
Yeah.
Action figures, whatever
Yeah.
it may be, old VHS tapes, DVDs, whatever, t-shirts, retro stuff. And then, kind of tie it all into collectibles, but also kind of give them a platform to kind of introduce to our audience that we have, and let people know, because there are some trading card aspects of this that will be taking place in the future for a lot of the different local independent places around here who have never
Made a
had a
card.
card set before, who've never had cards. And so discussing on what level we want to do that, whether it be a card set, one-offs of individual wrestlers, we don't know yet. So we're kind of all
Well, we've,
talking.
we've got the infrastructure in place now to do all that
We
stuff.
do that. And my wife and I, after our in-store appearance with Melina on Saturday, we were invited by a local independent company, come over their house. And we went over their house for dinner and drinks. My son got to go run around and play in their wrestling ring. And I've got video, Paul, you'd love. I mean, he's jumping off the second turnbuckle. I don't know where the hell he learned it
It's a
from.
start. It's a start of something.
Yeah, and but super wonderful people I hear, that I can't wait to start doing more business with. And they're not the only ones I'm going to be doing business with. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, you're doing business with this one person. You can't do. I'm talking to everybody over here. So I had a wrestler come in yesterday, came all the way down from a 3-hour drive, which is on the border of Mexico. And he came up here, not just for the store, but he said part of the reason he was up here is he knew he had business to do up here. And he looked us up and knew he had to stop in the store before he went home. And he came in with his daughter and we just talked wrestling for a while, and he's going to be a guest on the show.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward.
That's a really good idea, and I think a lot of people are going to dig that.
So
And I
it's
think,
just,
you know, again, I came down in January, you know, because I couldn't wait to see what you had on to go down there, and it was great. So if anybody's in the Arizona area or California, it's only a couple hours,
yeah.
get over to the Wrestling Guy store, because you're going to see stuff there that, you know, and even Tony's back room, the cards back there, it's incredible. Nick must be going every day trying to sort all that shit out.
You know what? I finally broke Nick down. Nick came in here and he was so excited to come in here and start sorting. And the first several weeks were great. Now he comes in, like he's coming in today. He messaged me and so he's coming today. He comes in, he goes, okay, what else you got? Like I burned him out. I finally burned him out because
he still comes in sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
yeah,
willing to help out.
but
Because for him, he knows the product. He loves cards, you know, and we can't say enough about the guy. We've always
he reached an era of cards that were not familiar to him. He's more of a modern guy, especially on the indie
but he's
stuff.
learning. Like he's going to learn a ton of shit.
He's learning a bunch of stuff, and that's what excites him, which is great. So he comes in here and he starts doing stuff from, you know, the early 2000s, the 90s, and he's into the 80s stuff,
you know,
around.
From the archivist point of view, when you and I are done, you know, it's going to be Nick and his generation of guys and Armand
100%.
and the guys that are 10, 15 years younger than us that have a better than average knowledge. You know, in fact, they have a fantastic knowledge of the whole gamut, A to Z, going right back to the cigarette cards to modern day Panini and all things in between. And
there's some good people that this stuff will be bequeathed to at some point in time, I'm sure. So so it's just you know, a lot of exciting stuff going on over here, and trying to mix and match all the stuff when it comes to WTC stuff. And I'll take a break for a week or two before doing any updates, and then I end up doing you know, a lot of updates. And again, Chuckster being the integral part of everything that goes on with WTC. You know, he keeps me on my toes, and I have all these emails I still have to go back and find things and update, and, you know, find stuff like, you know, the AAA binders. Like I got to add that and update the checklist. I've got, you know, been getting all these strategy guides from WCW and finding cards inside these things and new information about it. And then you start deep diving into it. You're like, oh man, this is so cool. Like I love the research process of it. And
it's fun. It's fun.
A lot of good stuff. So, but
well, congratulations, sir. Good to
hear
that another successful in-store this past weekend and things are grooving.
Yeah, we got a few coming in. Like this next month, I'm going to have it's going to be my first indie wrestler coming in.
Right.
So I've got this wonderful lady named Jasmine Allure. She's coming in July, and then you know, I've been telling people about it. I haven't given a date, but Kurt Angle's coming in November, and awesome. that seems to be a huge buzz for people. And we've got a lot planned for that day. Since I'm going to have them for the whole day, we're looking at breaking up into a couple of different segments like that. We'll probably have like some kind of an in-store Q&A that you can attend, where we're going to have him just sitting at the table and fielding questions and taking things that I've learned from that UK tour we did last year.
Just doing it on a smaller scale.
And just doing it right here in the store, and then letting people kind of experience that. And
why not?
And then you know, so I've already got plans for 2024 for some people. I have a 1-year anniversary guest lined up coming in. So it's a lot of fun. So it's a lot of headache. That's a lot of stress. But at the end of the day, you kind of you sit back, you go across street over to the Mexican restaurant over there, and just have yourself a margarita and some chips and salsa. And you're like, whew, man, glad that's over.
You know what? You're doing it. So before we sign off, I guess I should just throw out some things about the National, because that's happening month after next. We're going to be on the main panel again. I don't know what day. Scheduling hasn't been determined yet, but they have committed that wrestling cards will be given our hour. Adam and Shane, sports card sports card nobody. Shane. They've been working behind the scenes on a dinner.
We can't even reveal the stuff yet, but there's just been so much great stuff.
Well, we can't reveal it because we don't know it, do we?
Well, we know some things. We know there's some sponsorships coming possibly.
Yeah.
We know that
it's happening. There's stuff being
happening.
We just can't say when and where and how and just that there's going to be a panel, there's going to be a dinner, there's going to be a trade night. There's going to be Panini sponsorship. There's going to be a whack more of us than we had last year. So if you can make it to Chicago, It's right by the airport. It's the end of July, the 26th through the 30th. We're going to be there walking the show all 3 days, probably doing one, if not two of our shows from the national,
Yep.
and of course the panel, which we did last year. We had a lot of fun doing that.
Yep.
And this year we'll have some new faces on
Yep.
it, as well as our own. And I think it's going to be cool. Good time.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, everything plans out well, but the store is kind of my focus, and hopefully I can find some time to get out there. I can't keep relying on my wife to take,
Well,
PTO to come watch
that
my
might just have to
store.
be a game time decision, but
Yeah.
regardless.
Yep.
So anything else from you, sir?
Nope. That's good, fam. That's good. For a quiet month, we can chat wrestling stuff
Well,
all day
you and I,
long.
we only see each other this one time a month, so we could
Yep.
sit here all day talking to each other about all the shit that's
I
going
really
on.
enjoy it. It's like this is
Yeah.
this is the biggest benefit for me from this hobby, period, is having you and having Chuckster, having the Knicks, having everybody else around that I've
Mhm.
become closer to and become good friends with like that. And that's what brought this and because of cards, because of wrestling cards specifically, what brought
Yeah,
us
and
all
that's
together.
that's why I keep going on about, like this sort of childish notion that we should all make up and be friends, because we should, like the time's gonna come where some guys from this side and some guys from that side are gonna bang into each other at the national or at
Yep.
something. And we'd like there to be a handshake. We'd like
Sure.
to, no one has to love each other, but it's now that sort of the one thing that caused the riff has been settled, and it has been settled.
Yeah.
It has been, like that the data's out, and there's no need to keep harping on it anymore because things were said, mistakes were made,
Yep.
but it's over, all
It's
right?
over. Done.
And if there's any way that anybody could sort of get themselves um, to sort of steer clear of behaving themselves on Twitter and appreciating each other, I think that's best for the hobby. I
Yep.
always have.
Yep. So, well, with that, sir, we're going to wrap up a month of
Yeah, thank
May.
you.
And so not that people don't know where you're at, but where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at card_guide, or my site is called The Wrestling Card Price Guide. It's www.wrestlingcards.ca or www.thewrestlingcardpriceguide.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but that's more personal stuff. I
Yep.
don't do a lot of card stuff there, but yeah, Twitter is where most of our stuff goes on.
Yep. Same with me. It's going to be everything's at the wrestling card, wrestlingtradingcards.com. I'm thinking of your site. I'm thinking of your site. Yeah, I'm thinking of your site now. Like I'm envisioning your site. It's like that in my head. Going, yeah, the wrestling card price. It's wrestlingtradingcards.com. All of our social media can be found on the bottom of every single page. And that's it. Maybe you have any questions about stuff, you have any comments about this episode, love to hear from you. Maybe you disagree with some things. Maybe you have some more things to elaborate on what we talked about. Maybe you might want to see some different things on our monthly market watch. And we can start maybe adding that and drop something else off the list. I mean, I don't think that Hogan card is going to be changing any price anytime soon.
We're here. That's very true. We're here, guys, because we love doing this. We love providing information. If ever we inadvertently offend anybody, we don't mean to.
Yeah, never. I mean, there's never a
like
never.
if ever I say something that gets misinterpreted by someone, that's not the intention here. We're not those kinds of guys.
And if you feel
we're not the guys
if you feel something's directed at you, let's not go to social media to call somebody out in a public forum. Come at me, come at Paul directly and say, hey, were you talking about me, or was that directed towards me? Because I feel like that might have been, and we'll tell you, we'll talk to you personally.
That happened this past month, and we were able to speak offline and get it resolved. And again, I apologize to everyone concerned, because the last thing I want to do is say something and someone think, oh, this guy's ripping on me, when I'm not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So 100%.
I don't dislike anybody in the hobby. I just don't. And I want it to stay that way. But it gets harder and harder when there's certain characters. And I mean,
sure,
it's not the same for you. And, sometimes certain guys do make it difficult for us, don't they?
They do. I mean, and at certain point in times, you have to learn how to cut things off at some point in time.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of because for the better of my sanity and my direction.
Oh, no, you've got a store, you've got a young family, like you can't get mired in the bullshit. For me, I'm a little.
It got to the point with certain people. It got to the point where it was affecting my home life, which it never should have, because I'm talking about it, and my wife is like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why do you care about?" I'm like, "You know what? You're right, honey." And then boom, that's why I had to go.
Like we're in grade 9 again.
Yeah. So it just it's silly. and I want everybody to be involved, and everybody has a voice, and
Yeah.
everybody can share and collect what they love. And you know, we're just here to report information. WTC is here to just archive information. The price guide is there to archive information. It's just to better the hobby. Our
Yeah,
end
and we're
goal
gonna
is to
do
better the
fun
hobby.
things like the national and like the card sets and other things that we're talking about. That's just good for the
Yep.
collective as a whole.
Yep.
And you know, that's why we want it to be a whole. You know,
Yep.
we don't differentiate. You know, I collect everything. You know, I'm in every lane of the hobby as a collector. So for me, it's like there's no reason. Now, if you don't like someone, you don't like someone, and there's nothing we can do about that. And that's that. But
Yep.
try and do better, guys, if you can.
Yep.
You know.
Always try to do better. So, all right,
So
man. Well, it's a pleasure
thank you. See you next month.
pleasure to see you again as usual. And you know, we talk on a daily basis anyway. So.
Yeah. Nice to see your smiling face.
Yeah. I'm gonna go and gonna open the door now.
Yeah. I'm gonna go
All
for
right,
a
guys.
pee. Is what I'm gonna do. All right, guys.
Buddy.
See ya.
We'll talk to you next month, man. Buddy, take care.